Hello! We have already spoken about the total amount of expenses of the budget system of Russia, and in 2017 it was $3,700 per capita. Let us consider them in more detail. In this part we will determine the expenses of the federal level authorities, specifically the expenses of the federal budget and the federal off-budget funds. Let us remind you that all the calculations are made in the US dollars per one citizen of Russia. Apart from it, the figures in the film are significantly approximated, and you can get more detailed data on the website. And there is one more important remark. Some expenditure items can be funded from budgets and of different levels. For example, the school level education is funded from the federal budget, as well as from the regional and local budgets. It can be explained by the fact that the major part of state authorities is joined for different levels of government. It's established by the Russian legislation. We eliminate such expenses from a possible double counting and show them only at the level that directly provides the public service. For example, the federal budget allocates a certain amount of school level education. A significant part of this amount is sent to the regional budgets in the form of subsidies. But in the federal budget, this amount is shown as expenses for education. The regional budget receives the money from the federal budget and transfers it to the municipalities, and also shows it as expenses for education. The municipality spends this money to finance the school level education, and again shows them as expenses for education. As a result, the same amount can be counted 3 times in determining the total revenues of the school level education. The calculations presented to you eliminate a double or triple account, only final expenses are shown. So let us find out what $1,120 per capita of the federal budget and $1,130 of the federal off-budget funds are spent on. Social policy is the largest item of expenditures of the Russian budget system. And in this item, the main expenses belong to pension payments, which was $940 per capita or 25% of the expenditures of the entire budget system of Russia in 2017. This is more than the expenses on education, health, culture and physical education altogether. Perhaps in the near future the expenditures will begin to decline, as there is an increase in the retirement age from 55 to 60 years for women and from 60 to 65 years for men. The main expenses for pension payments are affected by the off-budget funds, namely the pension fund was $840, while $85 is paid by the federal budget and $15 is paid by regional budgets as additional payments to pensions for certain categories of citizens, for example, retired government employees. For information, in Russia there is a joint or distributive pension system, which entails that the working population provides payments to pensioners. A cumulative pension is not common. In 2017, the average pension in Russia was about $3,000 per year or $250 per month. $360 per capita from the budget system was allocated for other items of the social policy. These are numerous financial allowances, compensations, benefits, and so on for those who need social support. These expenses are borne by the off-budget funds, $170, the regional budgets $130, as well as the federal and local budgets, but in smaller amounts. The second largest group of expenditures of the budget system is called the national economy. $500 per capita in 2017 was spent on it. Road maintenance is the largest item of expenditure of this group. $180 was spent on the constructions, repairs and maintenance of roads. The regions bear the greatest financial burden, which is $80, $60 was allocated by the federal budget, $40 was given by the local budgets. Transportation is another major expenditure item in this group. $100 was allocated for the needs of transportation. $30 was spent from the federal budget. This is mainly for financial support for rail transport. $60 was spent by the regions. $10 was spent by the municipalities. The main part of these funds is sent to transport enterprises in the form of compensation for benefits to certain categories of citizens. Education is the third largest group of expenses. $380 per capita is spent on education. The main expenses on education are borne by the local authorities. The federal budget finances only higher education. In 2017, $60 per capita was spent on it. Only the federal budget incurs expenses. We will consider other education expenditures in our next film. Healthcare is the fourth group of expenses. $330 is spent to finance it. The expenses of the federal budgets are only $50, so this group will also be considered in the next part of our series of films. The fifth group belongs to national defense expenses. In 2017, $330 per capita was spent on defense. All of them are transferred from the federal budget. The main item of expenses in this group is aimed at financing the armed forces. This group of expenses is not described in detail in the budgets, since it has a secret stamp. The sixth group belongs to expenses for the national security. In total, $240 is spent on it, largely from the federal budget. The regional budgets are partially involved in co-financing of fire safety issues only. The expenses in this group are divided into several items. Police $75, Federal security agencies $35, National Guard troops $25, the system of education of sentences, prisons $25, ensuring fire safety $20, border service $15, and so on. The seventh largest group of expenses is spent on public administration. $260 per capita is spent on these goals in the Russian budget system. $150 of them is the expenses of the federal level. The main items of expenditure in this group include the expenses related to maintaining state and municipal property, carrying out international activities, ensuring the operational activities of tax and custom authorities, organizing the work of the judicial system, and so on. It may seem that this group also includes the expenses of financing the government apparatus. However, this is true only partially. Here, senior officials, the president of the country, governors and mayors, and the government of the country, regions and municipalities are financed. The main expenses of the government apparatus are borne by the ministries, and they are financed from their own industry-specific sources. For example, the expenses for the Ministry of Education are included in the section called Education. The public utilities sector is the eighth group of expenses. These expenses amount to $145 per capita. They are allocated from the regional and local budgets. Therefore, this sector's budget will be discussed in the next part of our series. The service of the state and municipal debt is the ninth group of expenses. In this case, we are talking only about the payment of interest on loans and not about the return of the loan itself. In 2017, $100 per capita was spent on it, $85 of which is the expenses of the federal level budget. This federal level has the largest debt burden. The 10th group is the expenses for cultural affairs. The budget system spends $60 per capita for cultural affairs. $10 out of $60 are the expenses of the federal level. First of all, they are aimed at financing federal cultural institutions, such as the Bolshoi Theater, the Hermitage, and others. Physical education and sports is the 11th group. In 2017, $40 per capita was spent for this group, $10 of which belongs to the federal level budget. Mainly, these amounts are used for the Russian teams to take part in international competitions. The 12th group of the expenses belong to the expenses of the mass media. The total expenses of the budget system in 2017 amounted to $15 per capita, $10 of which related to the federal budget. The main amount of funds finances two federal television channels, Channel 1 and the TV channel Russia. And the last group refers to expenses for environmental protection. $15 per capita is spent on it in the budget system of Russia. The main share of funds, that is $10, is funded from the federal budget. In 2017, these funds were spent first of all on promoting the use of motor vehicles with high environmental performance fuel. Now we're going to finish telling about expenses of the budget system at the federal level. For more information, please visit budsys.com. In the next part, you will get the analysis of the regional and local budget expenses. See you next time.